Wow. Hey, everybody. Great to see you. That's good. We got our security detail here protecting us from Skubik. It's really important. But it's great. Skubik's here somewhere. I don't see him, but he's here somewhere. No, I mean, you have, I don't know, you see this stuff. Yeah, you just see a lot of this. I'm just looking at what I have here. I mean, just some of the rhetoric you've seen from Winnie Brinks and John Cherry and some of the Democrats, in the Senate, which is really, it seems like it's geared toward inciting political violence. And so you see some of that stuff going on where they're out there with these posts, with these graphics, where they're directing people at me, you know what I mean? And they have this very frivolous political lawsuit that they're filing against me and against the House. And, if you saw the briefs, I think it's very clear we're going to win very easily. That case will probably be dismissed any day now. But you look at some of their posts on Facebook, and they're really trying to direct this anger at me, which I think is really unfortunate. And, we get a lot of threatening messages from people, and a lot of this is being directed by Senator Brinks and John Cherry. And so if you look at their posts on Facebook, you'll see this, and they're really directing people at me. So, we have this detail. And also you look at, I'll just say, we've made a lot of public appearances. And you know that. You look at my schedule, we're making a lot of public appearances. And these people, they want it, they know I'm immune, but they wanted to serve me in front of the cameras for political reasons. So it's really, the political theater needs to stop. And I know that what we're doing is we're working on a solution to the sick leave and the tip credit. And I think that's really important. If you remember, I just want to read a few things. Let me read this. So they say I need to give you more sound bites. So I'm going to give you some sound bites. All right, so you remember last year, the House Republicans unified to ensure that we fix the tip credit and the sick leave bills as quick as possible. And you saw that great unity from the House Republicans. And we came to the table last year and we tried to fix this. And House Democrats walked away from the deal. And so then the House Republicans walked out of the chamber. And we said, if we're just going to do all this dumb stuff, we'll wait till next year. And you saw that happen. And then when January came, this was our highest priority of our members. And so what we did was we created a committee. You remember, we had a committee rolling, and basically I hadn't been speaker for 7 days, and we had a committee where they listened to testimony from small businesses and workers on this solution, and Bill Schuette did a great job with that committee. Then we passed House Bill 4001 and 4002 with bipartisan support in the House. So, Republicans and Democrats voted for a sick leave fix, so workers can have sick leave that's paid, and it's done in a way where they'll have jobs, and also that our restaurant workers have jobs and that their restaurants are still open. So we passed those bills bipartisan out of the House, 3 weeks ago? It was a long time ago. So we passed those, and the Senate has been doing nothing. They've been doing nothing. So really, a lot of people are saying to me that what the Senate Democrats are doing in 2025 is an impersonation of what the House Democrats were doing in 2024 when they were fumbling around and not taking action on this issue that's so critical to our workers across the state. And they're really working, the Senate Democrats, for the big union bosses. That's what they're doing by not taking action on sick leave or the minimum wage. And the people that are hurting from this are the single moms and dads who are going to see massive reductions in their per hour pay. And they're going to see their their jobs go away. They're going to lose their jobs because the businesses that they work for and their employers are going to close. This is a travesty, and the Senate Democrats should take the bipartisan deal in front of them. I mean, really, they should take 4001 and 4002, which most people that I see think are model policies for how to fix these. But, you know, like I said, I mean, Democrats like Sam Singh and others are trying to represent the big labor bosses. And then over here you have these businesses that are bringing forward a lot of complaints. What I'm trying to do is represent the workers, the people in the middle. And so we have bills over there. The Senate could pass them today, the House bills, and this would be on its way to the governor. But I offered a compromise middle ground because I think most people in the state, they don't want the corporations to win. They don't want the labor unions to win. They want someone in the middle to lead this, and that's what I did. So what I tried to do was I tried to listen to what Sam Singh said, which is a unique concept up here in Lansing where they're listening. And we took a lot of their ideas and we brought it together, and I thought you saw a great story in Cranes that Dave Eggert wrote about this, and I saw one in MERS too that was really good. So what we tried to do was we tried to take some of the Democrats' ideas and some of the bipartisan ideas that came from the Republican plan and come to the middle so that we could come up with a solution that we could get done before the February 21 deadline. Our goal is to protect people's jobs, to ensure that every Michigan worker has access to a sick time off that's paid when they're not feeling well or they have to take care of a loved one, and also to have something that is actually able to be administered. When this group of outside of the state activists came up with this proposal years and years ago, it doesn't really work. You can't really administer it. And so we have to go through this and do some things in order to make it actually work. This is a one-size-fits-all court-ordered mandate. And that doesn't work for small companies, nonprofits. You know, you start looking at all these different types of companies and employers, it doesn't work to do a one-size-fits-all court-ordered mandate. And so we have to come up with a flexible plan that allows everyone to have paid sick time off. And then we need to come up with a plan that takes care of our workers but keeps the restaurant industry open and ensures that they make good wages. So, you know, I think you've read about that plan. I'd be happy to talk about it in a little bit. And then also, I did want to just highlight real quick, you know, did you guys see Heat? Heat, do you guys like Heat? You know, Mauger's still talking about FOIA, so he doesn't like Heat. But, you know, you used to support these policies, by the way, Mauger. But, so he's talking about FOIA over here. And did you guys see Tudor Dixon's tweet? I mean, Tudor Dixon just came over the top on that. That was, you know, that was fun to see. And I appreciate, there's no one who unifies the Republican Party like Mauger. You guys notice that? I mean, Tudor Dixon just coming down on him. A lot of people did, but, and we love Craig, and he does great work, but, you know, I needle you when you're not here. I have to needle you when you're here, too. And he'll get me back, don't worry. But, yeah. But anyway, Heat is coming, and we saw those beautiful posters, you know, of me and Steve Carr and Matt Maddock that somebody made, and you look at them, and the point is, the Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan is coming to Lansing, and what we're going to do is, unlike some of these other bills floating around, we're actually going to bring ethics, accountability, and transparency to Michigan's government. And I think you saw, you look at this, and I gave everybody a one-pager, because sometimes I talk about these concepts. I just thought it'd be easier if I put them all on one page for all of you, so that you could see what Heat is. And you see, like, movement on these things. So we saw earlier this week the legislation move out of the Government Operations Committee to require a 2/3 vote on bills that come out after the election. And you look at that, you know, I brought this up before, but like in the last session, 44% of the bills that became public acts passed in those last 2 weeks after the election. And you go back to 2014, that's pretty much the norm. It's almost half of the public acts happen in the 2 weeks after the election. And many of these things are unpopular ideas. And so I just think it would bring more accountability and transparency if you did all these policies before the election, so then people could judge their politicians and their voting record. And you saw that move through government ops. Now, later today, the Government Operations Committee is meeting again, and they're going to take up legislation to close the revolving door where politicians become lobbyists. They leave office and they become lobbyists. And this isn't just state legislators. You know, this could be the Attorney General, the Secretary of State, the governor, the lieutenant governor. I know a lot of you people have questions about what Governor Whitmer is going to be doing when she leaves office. Well, if this passes, we can take one of those items off the list. She's not going to be a lobbyist. And the problem is, you look at this, you have to wonder when these people are in their last weeks, are they working for us, or are they working for the people that they've agreed to jobs? And I look at it and say, you know, if you use these two things together, you require a 2/3 vote for bills that occur after the election, meaning only things that have broad bipartisan support would happen after the election, and then you combine that with this revolving door, you do that together, I think we can feel better about the fact that the people representing us are not going to have these conflicts of interest after the election. And so I think you'll see movement on that in the Government Operations Committee today. And my hope is that as we do that, we get bipartisan support. I think Democrats should support this too. People don't want their politicians to immediately become lobbyists right after they leave. That doesn't make sense. You saw that we've already created a robust oversight committee, and we've granted it subpoena power, broad subpoena power, and Jay DeBoyer is going to do a great job on that. And we've been getting a lot of compliments on the people that I've selected for those subcommittees, people like Steve Carra and William Bruck, and many others. We're getting very positive responses. And, you know, I was just talking to Steve Carra last night about, you know, some of these economic development deals. I mean, you look at this Ford deal, you know, we created SOAR. It really, you know, I don't think when we created SOAR, we really contemplated the idea that you give them the money, and then Ford comes back and says, hey, we need 2 more years, and then they just give them 2 more years, and they just extend these things forever without creating the jobs. So you look at that Ford deal, that's getting worse and worse and worse. And then we saw the GM deal where GM got $666 million, and then they came and said, we're going to sell our interest to a Korean company and cash out, but pay us anyway, and maybe LG will create the jobs, and if they don't, then come for us. That's not what this law was intended to do, and you don't see the protections in this law. So I'm really looking forward to what Steve Carra does with that, and I'm also looking forward to Steve Carra and what he's going to do as he's looking into these mega contracts and these mega deals that a lot of these corporations are getting. I think that we really need to look into those, and ultimately with the goal of moving on from these mega credits. We saw this very political economist for the Senate Fiscal Agency saying that you can't, if we get rid of the mega credits, they can file it against the corporate income tax. That's not true. All the experts I talk to point out you can't file a property tax exemption for your income tax. So you can't file an MBT credit against the CIT. And so as we're looking at a roads deal, you know, one of the key things that we need to do is eliminate the mega credits, and people in Michigan agree. Why is it that select few corporations that have connections get these huge sweetheart deals, and then Governor Whitmer proposes raising everyone else's taxes with the CIT? To me, we should eliminate these corporate giveaways, eliminate SOAR, eliminate the mega credits, and they're going to get more money that way, and everyone can be treated fairly in a uniform way. And I think Steve Carr is going to play an important role in that as he really examines these deals on the mega credits. So we created a robust oversight committee. We're going to ban the politicians from being able to lobby in other states while they're politicians here. I mean, you look at Rebecca Warren and what she did. She became a lobbyist in other states and then said, well, I don't have a conflict of interest. And of course, our Attorney General did nothing about that. She was too busy prosecuting her political opponents. And then we're going to, we've already done this with our House rules, and just for the new people here, we don't need the Senate for this. We don't need a deal. I do appreciate that Governor Whitmer is embracing me on this, but what I'm saying is we've already passed a House rule that requires the politicians to disclose these secret pork projects. Declare it by May 1. Put it in there, tell us what it is, who receives it, who's asking for it, and what is the public purpose. We've already done that. So you see, we're moving on heat. And when you guys look at what heat is, I think you'll all agree, even Craig, this is the biggest transformative breakthrough for ethics, accountability, and transparency in Michigan government in many, many years. This is it, the HEAT plan, Hall Ethics, Accountability, and Transparency Plan, and we're acting swiftly on this. And I think we're going to get the Senate to do it. So I'll stop there. I'm sure, maybe nobody has any questions. But if there are any questions, I'll take them. Yeah, Jordan.
So I guess I did have a question. Yesterday, the governor apparently reached out to both yourself and Senator Italy brings about potentially pushing back the implementation deadline for minimum wage and sick leave action. I was just curious if you were at all considering that or why or not.
Yeah. Well, number one, I built a very good relationship with the governor. I mean, you see a lot of really positive things happening here. I mean, you saw the governor embrace my plan to stop these secret earmarks and to disclose who's asking for these earmarks, what is the public benefit, and putting those out before a vote, and I think that's going to be a big deal. I put out and I want to give Channel 3 credit, and they're not here, but Channel 3 in Kalamazoo, their headline is, Whitmer proposes roads plan months after Hall. And that should really be all of your headline, because I put out a roads plan last year for $2.9 billion, I think, or $2.7 billion, and then I came up with one for $3.1 billion. And we did it by focusing on the existing money that the Treasury found, getting rid of a lot of the earmarks, and then prioritizing roads over corporations. And you do that with this sales tax shift, and you can come up with $3.1 billion without raising taxes. And I will answer your question. What Whitmer said, though, Whitmer's saying, let's do it just by raising taxes. But I will say this, she did agree to $500 million in cuts. I mean, you ask yourself, I don't even know if Governor Snyder agreed to $500 million in cuts when he was there. So say this, where you start, I put a plan out on roads. Governor Whitmer started out the negotiations by agreeing with half of it. You think about it. She's agreed to the sales tax shift, which is about $1 billion, and she's agreed to $500 million in cuts. Now, I'm saying we can get there pretty much with cuts if we prioritize roads over corporations. Now, the other half, Whitmer is proposing tax increases. And I don't think we should raise taxes to fix the roads. I think we can do it by prioritizing roads over corporate giveaways for a select few connected corporations. So we'll debate the rest of it, but I give her credit. I mean, this is the first time in 6 years that she's put a plan on the table since her 45-cent gas tax increase, which not one legislative Democrat had the guts to introduce. Now Whitmer and I, we had a good conversation yesterday talking about the sick leave policy and the tip credit. And I'll just say, I understand why Governor Whitmer's frustrated, because Senate Democrats have done nothing to act on this for months. And we see them fumbling around. They can't even get a bill out of their chamber on minimum wage or sick leave to save our workers and make sure they have good sick leave plans. Where the House has a bipartisan bill that I worked on with Jay DeBoyer and John Robb that passed weeks ago that's been sitting in the Senate chamber. So look, if I was Governor Whitmer, I'd be frustrated too by the ineffectiveness and inaction of Senate Democrats who are not able to get a bill out of their chamber to address minimum wage or tip credit. With that said, though, I would like to get a deal done by February 21. And that's what I'm focused on. I think that we need to solve these problems now, and I don't like the idea of kicking the can down the road another 5 months just to get right back to where we are today. Let's solve the problem now, and that's what I'm committed to and what I believe in. Yeah, Craig.
2 questions. If you talked about the House bill that if the Senate sends you their Excel bill that goes up to 60%, would you support that? And secondly, in the spirit of the all ethics and accountability and transparency you talked about, when you talk to the Senate Democrats and you say, here's my proposal, we go up to 50%, what do they say to you? Do they say, we won't support that? Do they say, hey, we're going to talk about that? I mean, can you give us some insight on where they're at?
Well, and don't you think I'm the most transparent quadrant leader that you've worked with in a while?
There's no way I'm going to answer that.
Wow, well, why would I answer your question, So, Craig, you think that that if you got your FOIA bill, which you're the only one talking about, and you know his dad, you think that they're going to put that in an email and then you're going to get it in an email?
I'm asking you, when you're talking to them, what are they telling you? That was the question.
All right, but no, I appreciate it. Now, someday, I think you'll write that I was the most transparent quadrant leader that you ever worked with. We're just still building trust with Craig, right? And people love heat. I mean, it's everywhere. And these Lansing department heads are very worried about heat because they know heat is coming to them. But what I'll say is this, I'm not going to do 60% tip credit. We're not going to let that, we're not moving that through the House. I don't even think they could get 60% tip credit through the Senate. We should do a 38% tip credit. That's what we should do. It is working right now for Michigan workers, okay? But in the spirit of compromise, look, I mean, we're trying to save people's jobs and save the restaurant industry. And so, I propose to them, let's go 50%, basically meeting them in the middle, halfway. That's not what the corporations want. That's not what the labor unions want, but it's something that I think can work for Michigan workers. So I won't entertain 60%. And I hope they'll move 50%, because if they move 50%, I think they could get that through their chamber today, is my guess. And that would sure be a great solution where we got this done, early next week and saved the restaurant industry. So that's your answer. Hope that helps. But yeah, Dave. And Dave wrote a great story. Did you guys, hopefully you all read Crane's. I mean, you got a lot of the details in there about the bipartisan compromise that I put forward on the sick leave and the tip credit. So great job.
As part of this negotiation, we realized that percent of the bills that would from last term to the governor, Senate Democrats, about 60 over that, is that a potential part of the deal?
We're not going to negotiate on something that most legal experts believe I don't have a constitutional duty to present. So the question was, would we trade presentment on the 9 bills that Joe Tate failed to deliver to the governor in exchange for a deal on the tip credit or the sick leave? I can say we've not discussed that, and I would not entertain it because, again, there's constitutional duties. And most of the legal experts believe, and even people like Jim Ananick have been quoted, and unlike a sheriff in Genesee County, I'm actually accurately representing Jim Ananick. Jim Ananick says that when one legislature ends, as far as he knows, the next legislature doesn't have a duty to act for that prior legislature. And that was his understanding when he was on the MERS podcast. So a lot of Democrats are saying that I don't have an obligation to present. you know, we've been looking at this question, and it's a question that I've been wrestling with, looking at precedent, looking at the Constitution, looking at the journals, you know, and it's something we're still considering as we're moving forward. But at the time that we filed those legal briefs, you know, you see what's in there. And I'll let, you know, experts like Steve Liedel, who's one of the best attorneys in Lansing and is representing me on this case and is a Democrat, you know, we'll let them talk about all the specific legal arguments. I'll just say, for me, it's not something we would trade because it's a constitutional issue. You can't trade a constitutional issue over a political question. That's just my view.
Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of compromise, the governor says she's willing to do some budget cuts. Are you willing to leave the door open to a revenue increase, or are you saying you refuse to compromise on that issue?
Well, I'll say this. I mean, you look at what the national Republicans put out. You know, they put this out. I believe the Senate Republicans and the federal level. You know, they're looking at ways that you can tax EVs, and I think one of their proposals was $1,000 for every EV. This was a bill that was introduced yesterday. And so what they're trying to wrestle with is how do you capture, in their case it was, you know, how much federal taxes is an EV going to pay over 10 years? And they believe that was $1,000, and so it would be like $1,000 tax on EVs when you buy the car. That's what they're proposing at the federal level. You know, I would be open, number one, to looking at how do we sweep in more from the EVs that are, you know, growing in terms of their market share. They're heavier than regular cars, and we're not capturing all the activity. So I would look at that. You know, we're going to look at some of Governor Whitmer's proposals, and I give her credit for putting them out there. But really, I believe we can solve this problem without new revenue. I believe we can solve this problem with just cuts. And I showed how you do that. You set priorities, and you prioritize roads, which is what she said in the election, over corporations. And I don't remember Whitmer running and saying, vote for me, and I will give large checks to the most connected corporations in the state. She said, vote for me and I'll fix the roads. So let's do that. Let's fix the roads. And then what I said at the last press conference, if she wants to talk about raising taxes, then we should sit down with these corporations that want these incentives so bad and talk about it then.
So you are open to a fee increase or raising some revenue as part of this package. Fair statement?
I'm open to looking at EVs, and I think we can do it with existing revenue. And I would just say this, I'm going to, you know, carefully look at every proposal Governor Whitmer puts forward, you know, but what I believe is when we get into the details, we'll see. We can do this with existing revenue. Now, if Governor Whitmer wants to have a separate conversation about how we do incentives moving forward, I'm just saying that I think the corporation should pay for it, not working people. I mean, you look at this quote from the Michigan Manufacturers Association, where one of their people say, you know, this is not fair to corporations. Shift all these road taxes onto working people through gas tax increase and fee increases. I don't agree with that. I can't believe they said that. That is an indefensible statement. Working people in this state are paying too much already, and we shouldn't raise their taxes. That's why I think we can do this without, I mean, I told you this. Government has grown 43% under Governor Whitmer, okay? Some of these budget proposals, it would probably grow over 50%. I mean, I think this is very interesting. So Governor Whitmer proposes a budget that does not include her roads plan. And then you guys all write stories saying, you know, this is just a couple percentage points increase over the last one. And then the next day comes the rest of it. The other, what is it, $3 billion? If they had included that in their budget presentation, you guys would be saying, oh my goodness, what a huge increase in the budget. By bifurcating that, that isn't the way a lot of the press covered it. They should cover it that way. This makes Whitmer's budget proposal a huge increase. I would bet you, Gideon, did we run the numbers on this?
47%.
47%. So, all right, government has grown 43% today. It'll grow over 47% if we raise taxes the way Whitmer wants to under her term. I'm just saying most people would say 43% is enough to fix the roads. We don't need more taxes. Let's set better priorities. With Ann Bolin going through every budget line item and finding value for your dollars, combined with prioritizing roads over corporations, you can do it without raising taxes.
So are you willing to raise the CIT earmark for the roads?
No,
Why not?
because I think we have enough money. We have enough money without dedicate.
But in the spirit of compromise, you just agreed here philosophically to a fee increase. Why not use the CIT to do it?
Because I think we have enough money, and I think that a conversation about the CIT should really be about the next subject that's coming up, which is all the incentives that Governor Whitmer wants to do. Because what I'm proposing is getting rid of all the incentives, getting rid of the mega credits, and getting rid of the SOAR fund, and getting rid of the Community Housing Development Fund, and getting rid of the RAP fund. And this is the placemaking fund that we're talking about when we talk about RAP. So when we get rid of all of those things to fix the roads and prioritize roads, if Governor Whitmer wants to have a conversation when we're done with that, where she's talking about how to do the incentives, and we bring the corporations to the table and we say, look, if you guys want the incentives, you're going to pay for it, I would have that conversation with her. But they're separate conversations. And by the way, if you kept all those corporate incentives in place, then I would never support a conversation about the CIT. Yeah.
But the deadline for the implementation is next Friday. You said that we would like to have done beforehand. We are in a position close to deadline, but we're not getting it. Is there anything that we or your offices should be expecting over the next couple of days to get that done, or is there a holdout in place until that happens next Friday?
Can you see? I learned from Dave Eggert. I have to listen to the questions before I answer them. So because I start talking before I hear the whole question, and then you guys say, Matt, you said this, and it's a mess. So say it, yeah.
Next Friday, that's when the implementation are set to take effect. You want them done beforehand, but we are in a position where there are two bills, negotiations are happening. Is there anything that we should expect in the next couple of days to happen, or is there anything that the office is looking to do?
Yeah, and I read the headline in the Detroit News, and I don't agree with it. Kevin Hertel says we're close to a deal, and then they run with it like it's the truth. And I'll just say this, I mean, Kevin Hertel, a deal with who? You know, a deal with who? That was when I read the question, when I read the headline, I said, a deal with who? Because I'm not talking to Kevin Hertel so far, and as far as I'm concerned, you know, that was an inaccurate statement by Kevin Hertel. I actually think that Kevin Hertel is part of the problem here, and I wish that the restaurant workers and the, you know, all these employees across the state that are about to lose their jobs, you know, they should be, you know, looking to these Senate Democrats, people like Kevin Hertel, and asking them to come to the table for a middle-of-the-road compromise. Like Kevin Hertel says, if we just do it 100% my way, then we'll get a deal. And I think we're close. You know, that's what he's saying, okay? What the Republicans are saying is, that's not how it works up here. You don't get 100% your way, Kevin Hertel and the Senate Democrats. You got to compromise. That's why Kevin Hertel's at 60%. We were at 38%. Let's meet in the middle at 50%, okay? That's a compromise. And I think that they should take that deal today and they should move that bill. And I hope they do. And then we'll come back next week and we'll pass it. But you don't say, I think we're close to a compromise as long as we do 100% of what I want. Kevin Hertel needs to learn that's not how it works up here. And that's not how it works in life.
But we are in a stalemate without negotiation or such compromise. It will go into effect next Friday.
Well, I put a deal on the table at 50%. I'm the only one that's put a deal on the table here that's actually in the middle. And I put that out. You can read, you know, about it. Because I put it out. And what I'm saying is, if they accept my deal, meet me halfway, neither side wins, The labor bosses don't win, the corporations win, the workers win, because they're going to have jobs when this thing happens. So I hope they'll take my deal in 50%. Let's put the workers above the union bosses and the corporations, and let's keep their jobs. And let's keep these restaurants open. But the only way we're going to do it is if we both give, and we do it at 50%, right in the middle. Yeah.
Similar question. Friday's the deadline. Right now, well, you said you don't think you can out much this summer. How the rest of the quadrant feel about this, and how does that Friday deadline for next week affect our dynamics of the negotiations?
How does the rest of the quadrant feel about what?
About that February 1st deadline.
February 21. Well, we saw Ranjiv Puri. I mean, this guy, I heard him talking to some of you guys, and he says, the artificial February 21st deadline that's in the Republicans' heads, you know, we don't care about that. We can blow by that. That's why the House Democrats are in the minority, is because that's the way those guys are thinking. So the rest of the world, the reasonable people, understand that this activist court came up with a February 21 deadline, and that's when these laws take effect. And when Ranjiv Puri starts having workers call him who lost their jobs, maybe he'll understand that's a real deadline. So I think the rest of us, the reasonable ones, understand that there's a February 21st deadline. I mean, even the governor acknowledges there's a February 21st deadline when she makes her statement that we should extend the deadline. So I just say that I think our best shot at getting good policy done is sticking to that February 21 deadline and working around the clock to get it done. And I think I've made a very good offer with my bipartisan meet you in the middle compromise in order to avoid a one-size-fits-all mandate that's going to take people's jobs and lower people's pay. And I hope they take it. I mean, the Senate's in session today. They could just sub those in and send them back to us, and we'll pass it next week, and the whole crisis is averted. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you take the upper hand in negotiations if not all Democrats see this February 21st deadline as pressing?
Well, I look, what I'm going to do is we're going to put reasonable proposals out there, and I hope that the public, now I know that Brinks and Cherry and these guys are really fanning the flames on dangerous rhetoric to try to incite violence against me, and I don't want to say maybe it's not even on purpose, but that's the effect of their actions. I mean, when you're trying to direct that hatred and anger toward me and fan the flames, you know, that will incite violence. And we've gotten a lot of threats and things. But I'll say that when it comes to this, in a respectful, peaceful way, I think that people should go to these Senate Democrats and help them to understand how business works, and help them to understand how important your job is, and how important it is that you're able to get tips, and how important it is that your employer stays open and you have a job, and also that you get a fair sick leave policy. So I hope people in a peaceful way will talk to their Senate Democrats, because this deadline is coming on Friday, and we got to get something done. Yeah.
Should we expect the session schedule to stay the same, or should we expect a long nights next week or extra session
Yeah.
days to get this negotiation done?
So what I've told our caucus is let's prepare to be here all day Thursday and Friday if we need to. You know what I mean? I think we need to be here because, you know, sometimes with politicians the deal doesn't come until the last minute. And so we're going to be here to try to get this thing done for our workers. I think that's what our workers expect of us, is to be here at work to get this thing done before the deadline. Yeah.
Your colleague, Ms. Newton, bipartisan, that has gone through to vote in the House. Senate Dems has picked it up. Where's the bipartisan?
Yeah, the bipartisan plan I'm referring to is 4001 and 4002, which was... No, the compromise is meeting them in the middle, and thanks for that clarity. It should be bipartisan, but what I tried to do was meet them in the middle. Now, I'm just saying this, the starting point, okay, the starting point for the House, 4001 and 4002, that is bipartisan, right? The Republican position is bipartisan. because we got Democrats supporting it. The Democrat position is just Democrat because they don't have any Republicans supporting it that we know of. So a middle position would actually be bipartisan if the starting position is bipartisan too. I would argue that, but we would get more Democrats if we met each other in the middle. We already have Democrats, and if they want to pass the versions that have been sitting in their chambers for weeks, those are really good. I'm just trying to go a little further because we don't get 100% of what we want in life. That's not how it works in life. It's not how it should work up here in Lansing. Any other questions? Yeah.
I was noticing when I came in here that Speaker Johnson's portrait is on the wall. Are you going to leave portraits up of people who think they put it around?
Yeah, you noticed that, huh?
Did you put
Is it your first time in the library since that? I mean, that's been up there for a while. So, yeah, look, I mean, I don't believe in this cancel culture. You know what I mean? So Rick Johnson was Speaker of the House. And this is a room where all the speakers of the House have their portraits up. And so I think one of the lessons that we learned in the last election is people are sick of this cancel culture. Was Rick Johnson Speaker of the House, Craig?
He was.
Yeah, so he goes up in the Speaker's library. If I disagree with what Rick Johnson did after he was Speaker, I shouldn't cancel him in the Speaker's library. So I put it back up.
Do you think Mike Duggan can win as an independent and that the Republican candidate for governor will win as a result or not?
I don't know if you've noticed this, but I don't think the media covers this enough. Like, I actually have really good relationships with a lot of these people. I mean, you have Duggan, who used to be a Democrat and is now an independent. We have a good relationship. You have Governor Whitmer, who is the leader of the Democrats, and we have a good relationship. I can't figure out what's wrong with this Ranjit Puri and Winnie Briggs. What is wrong with them? I mean, a lot of these people, we were here the other day with the Detroit police chief, Todd Bettison, who just got proposed to be the new police chief. I mean, you saw I was in Hamtramck the other day with Karen Whitsett and their mayor. We were over in Dearborn Heights with their mayor. I created a Southeast Michigan outreach office just dedicated to talking to community leaders in Southeast Michigan because the prior speaker, nobody could get a hold of him. We're going to be making inroads with Mark Hackle in Macomb County, with Warren Evans, with Mike Duggan, with a lot of people. So we've got a great relationship. In terms of your question, your polling suggests he's got a decent, not yours, but your media polling suggests there are a lot of people open to him. What I'm trying to do in my position is just be accessible to all of these candidates to be, I have a policy shop. So what I'm doing is I'm building policy for the future, and I'm going to work with any candidate that wins governor with a plan. Because remember when Trump had the trifecta the first time, and then Paul Ryan screwed it all up because he didn't have a plan? Well, I'm going to have a plan and on a lot of these issues with our members in the House, and we'll be ready to go, whether it's Mike Duggan, whether it's Eric Nesbitt, whether it's somebody else, and we're going to have a lot of policies we're going to shoot out of here, and I hope all of these governor candidates embrace them.
Mr. Speaker, can you win as an independent candidate for governor?
According to your polling, he's got a shot. Well, why do I even watch shows like Off the Record? I watch your shows so I can hear your guys' opinion, and according to you guys in the press, there's a lot of people interested in it.
Why won't you answer the question?
I'm still in the process of analyzing it like a lot of us. So I listen to shows like yours, and according to your experts and pundits, he's got a shot. It's interesting, though, because you ask your opinion, and then you look at this poll. Was it in MERS? Where was the poll? And the MERS poll says a lot of people are open to it, which was pretty interesting. And then I saw one today that said Dick DeVos is tied with Mike Duggan, which was pretty cool to see. A lot of people love Dick DeVos. And the poll said it, if you saw it. Yeah, was there a question over here?
Yeah, unrelated note, but the state put out a report this week about the red flag laws.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like about 300 were pulled, about 280 were actually utilized. Democrats say that the effects of the law are working as intended. I was just curious to kind of get your response to that.
Yeah, as you know, and I just want to acknowledge today being the anniversary of what happened, that terrible shooting at Michigan State University, and You know, we all remember how we felt when that happened and how shocking it was that something that tragic could happen here in Lansing, you know. It's just incredible to relive and think about those moments and the families. You know, you remember right after that happened, we had some of the families, we had some of the law enforcement there in the House chamber. Everybody came together a couple days later to thank all the brave first responders that helped make that less of a tragedy by getting there quickly and finding this guy, you know. So it was just devastating what happened. But to answer your question, you know, it's been very interesting to look at your reporting on this, both on the safe storage and the red flag. I mean, it's been interesting to look at the data on that. So, when I looked at it, you know, it was interesting. I mean, you see a lot of these are ex parte hearings. I mean, there were quite a few of them that got dismissed and other things happened. I just think for me, you know, we had concerns about due process. I still have concerns about due process. I want to look at, you know, how have these things affected law enforcement? I mean, you think about it, these law enforcement, they come up to your door and nobody knows that they're coming, and then they demand to take your guns away. So I think what we came out with, what you guys showed us, was good. It's a data point. I think we should look at other data points, you know, and learn more about how these things are working. That's one thing they never do up here, by the way. They pass laws, and then nobody measures whether they're working or not. And so we should look at it. I have constitutional concerns about a lack of due process. That's why I voted against it. But also, you know, I voted for the safe storage laws. And, you know, you look at that, and you know, I read the article on that the other day. There's some real heart-wrenching stories, you know, that come across there of, you know, accidental shootings and things that happened as a result of guns not being stored properly. So, you know, you hate to hear those cases, and you see that law is being utilized as well. So it was interesting to read the stories, and I think we should keep looking at data points to see if they're working. But, you know, on the constitutional, or on the red flag, I have concerns about the constitutionality of that. Any other questions? All right, well, thanks everybody. Where's that guy from Michigan Advance that always pops in right now to ask? All right, well, enjoy Senate session. I hope we have a successful day over there. Thank you. All right, you guys, don't let Scooby.